Alright, so today we're going to be doing some ACT math practice questions. We're going to start with practice test number 1, page 64. We're starting with problem 41. Here, the problem says, for 20 quiz scores in a typing class, the table below gives the frequency of scores in each score interval. Which score interval contains the median of the scores? So then the median is going to be the middle value. So for instance, if you have 11 values, the median would be the sixth, assuming they're sorted from lowest to highest. If you have an even number, for instance, 12, the median would be the average of 6th and 7th scores. So in this case, we're going to look at the frequency and we're going to add everything up. So 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 9 equals 20 scores. So since it's even, we're going to have to average the two middle ones, which would be the 10th and the 11th scores. However, this is actually a nice problem, because if you look at it, both the 10th and the 11th scores fall in this range right here, 81 to 85. So then your median is going to be in this interval right there, 81 to 85. Therefore, our answer is option D. Question 42. In the complex numbers where I squared equals -1, evaluate this expression. So the expression is given by 1 plus I times 1 minus I, 1 minus I. So then we multiply the top, which is just 1 minus I, and the bottom will be 1 plus I, 1 minus I. If you guys look at it, you can recognize that the bottom is this identity right here, which is obviously just 1 minus I squared. However, if you couldn't catch that just from looking, we can also expand it. So then if we were to expand it, 1 plus I, 1 minus I, we would get 1 times 1, 1 times I, 1 times -I, and then I times 1, I times -I, so minus I squared, which would be 1 minus I squared. Okay? So then from here, we know that I squared is -1. So then this will be 1 minus I over 1 minus -1, which is 1 minus I over 2. So then that is option J. Question 43. Temperature measured in degrees Fahrenheit are related to temperatures measured in degrees Celsius by the formula F equals 9/5C plus 32. There is one value of X for which X degrees Fahrenheit equals X degrees Celsius. What is that value? Alright, so we're given that the formula is F equals 9/5 times C plus 32. Since they say the value of the two temperatures is going to be the same, we rewrite this using the same variable for both temperatures. So X equals 9/5X plus 32. Then we subtract 9/5 from both sides, so we get -4/5X equals 32. We want to get X alone on this side, so we multiply both sides by -5/4. So here we get X equals -5/4 times 32. Therefore, X equals -40. So then we get B. Question 44. The table below gives experimental data values for variables x and y. Theory predicts that y varies directly with x. Based on the experimental data, which of the following values is closest to the constant of variation? All right, so they even give us the formula right here, and they say they have a linear relationship. So y equals kx, where k is the slope. So what we're going to do here, and recall that the slope is rise over run, which is x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the end values of the table. So this y, and the same for x. So then we're going to get 1.05 minus 0.14 over 21 minus 2.75. And after you solve that on your calculator, that is going to be pretty close to 0.0498, which is very close to 0.05. So then the answer is G. Question 45. All right. During a snowstorm, the relationship between the depth of accumulated snow, y inches, and the elapsed time, x hours, was modeled by the equation 2x minus 5y equals -5. One of the following graphs in the standard xy coordinate plane models the equation for positive values of x and y. Which one? All right, so the equation they give us isn't in the format that we're necessarily used to. So we want to get y alone on one side. So add 5y to both sides and subtract, and also add 5 to both sides. So we get 2x plus 5 equals 5y. Divide both sides by 5. So we get y equals 2x plus 5 over 5, which is the same as 2x over 5 plus 1. All right, so we know here that our slope is 2 over 5. Our intercept is 1. So we're looking for a graph that will be, since the intercept is 1, we're looking for a graph that's going to start at y equals 1. And since the slope is 2 over 5, which is less than 1, the slope will be sort of like this. It's not going to be too steep at all. So then we're looking for something that's kind of like this. So if we look at our options, well, option D, the intercept is at 5, so we can eliminate immediately. Same for E, and same for C. So we get A and B. B, we can clearly see that the slope is greater than 1. It's too steep. So then the answer is A. All right, problem 46. Diana's baking bread, and the original recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons of yeast and 2.5 cups of flour. Diana will use the entire contents of a packet that contains 2.25 teaspoons of yeast and will use the same ratio of ingredients called for in the original recipe. How many cups of flour will Diana use? So this problem is just going to be simple cross multiplication. So the original recipe says 1 1/2 teaspoons of yeast, 2 1/2 cups of flour. But then she will use 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and we want to know how many cups of flour she's going to use. Let's rewrite this as 3 1/2. Let's rewrite this as 3 halves, and 5 halves. and this as 9/4, and x cups of flour. So here we know that x 3/2x is the same as 5/2 times 9/4. Multiply both sides by 2/3, so we get x equals 5/2 times 9/4 times 2/3, which is 15/4. 15/4, we know that 12/4 is the same as 3. So then this is the same as 3, and then 15/4 minus 12/4, 3/4. So 3 3/4, which gives us option J. Problem 47. For all non-zero values of x, then evaluate this expression. So 12x to the 6th minus 9x squared over 3x squared. We can rewrite this as 12x to the 6th over 3x squared minus 9x squared over 3x squared. All right, simplifying. 12 divided by 3 is 4. When you divide exponents with the same base, you just subtract them. So x, 6 minus 2, 4, minus 3, x, 2 minus 2, 0, x to the 0 is just 1. So then, that's going to be our answer, which is option E. Problem 48. Four matrices are given below. Which of the following matrix products is undefined? Alright, so if you're multiplying a matrix A times a matrix B, in order for this to be mathematically possible, the number of columns of matrix A needs to be the same as the number of rows of matrix B. If you check this right here, every one of these options holds except for K, because X, the number of columns of X is 2, and the number of rows of Z is 3, which are not equal. So that multiplication cannot happen. So the answer is K. Problem 49. The three parabolas graphed in the standard xy coordinate plane below are from a family of parabolas. A general equation that defines this family of parabolas contains the variable n in addition to x and y. For one of the parabolas shown, n equals 1. For another, n equals 2. And for the third, n equals 3. Which of the following could be a general equation that defines this family of parabolas for all n greater than or equal to 1? Alright, so when analyzing this graph right here, we notice that the y-intercept happens at y equals 1. So then, if our general equation for our parabola is c x squared plus b, where c is any constant, it could be negative, and b is the intercept, we know that now it's going to have to be c x squared plus 1. So we can immediately eliminate option C, since it says plus n. Now, since the parabolas are curved upwards, we know that C has to be positive. If they were negative, it would look like this. So we can also eliminate options D and E. Then we're only left with A and B. And the last thing is, the steeper the parabola, the greater C is. So if this, let's say, if this is y equals x squared, this will be y equals 2x squared. And then here you can see that as n increases, the parabolas do get steeper. So then the option is A. Because if it was B, it would be inversely proportional. So at n increased, they would have to get wider and more open.